Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America, and you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill, driving America.
From baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes. Erie International Airport. Fly with ERI.com.
Fly Erie International Airport to Charlotte on American Airlines, your nonstop gateway to the world. Also, we have Breeze Airways flying nonstop to Orlando and Tampa, Florida. A great low-cost carrier providing excellent service to the regional community. Fly Erie International for your travel needs.
Fly with ERI.com.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
With us here is the Executive Director of the Erie Regional Airport Authority, Erie International Airport. Derek Martin joins us. Derek, great to see you, sir.
Good to be here.
We are celebrating another big announcement from last week. On Tuesday, you announced that new service on Breeze Airways is starting in January to Tampa Bay. That's pretty exciting, you know.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is a great location for people from the Erie area. It's a short drive down to Siesta Keys if you want to go down there and get to the beaches. The beaches of Clearwater, St. Pete are rated some of the world's best beaches, half an hour from the Tampa airport. So it's a great opportunity to enjoy Tampa as well as the great beaches of the region.
So this come January, that'll mean that you'll have 2 Breeze flights coming in on Wednesdays and Saturdays and 2 going out. One from Orlando and one from Tampa. That's interesting that those are the dates, you know, the Wednesday-Saturday pair kind of thing, isn't it?
Well, it allows people to do a weekend
Okay.
as well as if you want to do a 7-day trip, and depending on when you want to take your time off from your work. So a lot of people have the time off now to take them at different times. Everybody's not locked into leaving on a Saturday, coming back on a Saturday or Friday. So it gives people flexibility, and you can do a 3-night, 4-night, or a 7-night or longer trip. So it's a great opportunity. The flight down from here to Orlando, I think, leaves at 6:30. Get there at 9 at night, so you have all day Friday, all day Thursday,
yeah.
and almost 3/4 a day on Friday or Saturday before you're coming back. So it gives people an opportunity to do those sort of things. And I understand some of the flight times have changed; they might get earlier in the day. So there's a lot of opportunities for change. But you know, if you worked a full day, you still can get to the airport, get on your plane, and get to Florida, and only take 2 days off if you're just going down for the weekend.
All right, so some folks might have been on an ultra low-cost carrier, and I would love for you to give us a little primer. We've got some time here. So to me, when I look at these, there's a couple different categories. There's the Spirit and Frontier category, which is kind of like trying to replace legacy routes, right, on a daily basis. Then there's these like Allegiant and you know all the different brand names. But Breeze is in this second tier, but they want to be like this high-end part of that second tier. Can you explain what their service model is all about?
So you mentioned Spirit and Frontier. If you've ever been on their planes, they're very uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're very basic.
Very basic. That there's not much recline. We call it pitch in the industry on their seats, as well as there's hardly any amenities at all, and you pay for everything that you want. Mm-hmm. Breeze has taken the idea that, okay, there's different price points of people that want to get on a plane. There's somebody that might want to get a first-class seat with a free drink, a reclining chair, a big chair. There's somewhere in between, and then you have the families. So they have their plane divided up into those sections of what people might want to pay for and not pay for. And they bundle their products so you can pay what you want. So if you have a family of 4 or 5 going to Florida, everybody doesn't need a suitcase.
True.
Okay? So, you know, do you need 2 suitcases for the family of 5? And so you pay for 2 bags, maybe a couple carry-on bags for the kids for games or something like that.
Yeah. And
away you go. So that's your personal item. So it allows people to understand the different products. Most low-cost carriers, when they start, typically, like when a Legionnaire started, they started with used MD-80 aircraft because they could get them cheap. And because they would get them cheap, they can run them, and they ran them into the ground. And now they've transitioned, I think, into some Boeing aircrafts themselves.
Okay.
Breeze started off with an Embraer 190 and 195. They're nice planes, but they don't have the long enough stage lengths or the capacity that they want. So they went to an A220 aircraft.
And that's Airbus?
Airbus A220, yep. It holds, the way they have it configured is 137 seats.
What would that be the equivalent on the Boeing? Is that a 737-ish?
About a 737, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's a similar size aircraft as a Boeing 737, but it allows the aircraft to have the fuel efficiency that these newer aircraft offers. It has the amenities that people want when they get on an airplane. And so when you get on an airplane, everybody's struggling with some place to plug in your phone, some place to plug in your computer, some place to connectivity to the Wi-Fi. And from my understanding, they have on their A220s, they have Wi-Fi on the plane, so somebody can get on the airplane, can continue to do work, continue stream certain things that they might want to do. And it's very interesting to have that happen on a low-cost carrier. So they call themselves the premier low-cost carrier. And I think it's going to add a different product, nicer product for people here in the community.
That's really astounding. People need to understand this is very different than, let's say, the Embraers that were flying on American on the Express, the 50-seaters or even the 70-seaters, right? I mean,
right. The 75 seaters is interesting to have in place as hopefully American continues to grow and get rid of the 50 seaters, the 75 seaters. But this Breeze aircraft is 137 seats, and those 137 seats provide an opportunity to get more people to a destination that people want to go to throughout the year. And so it's a great product. I think it's going to be well received in the community.
Now, booking a flight on Breeze is a little bit different than booking a flight on American. Can you go through what some pro tips or maybe, how you would approach it as a, and again, this is mostly for leisure travel, right?
Well, there's some actually business people that are actually going down to Florida as well. You've got the two universities, LeCom, Mercyhurst, that have campuses.
That's right.
Down south. So they're going down for the travel, but the booking is a little different. So American, you can go through the whole booking process before you can need to put your name and address in and your detail information. The Breeze component, you get to a certain point, then they want your name, your phone number, email address, and that sort of thing.
Okay.
They don't want to continue to waste time on which is not actually a
Is there like a club like they have in Frontier
no
Frequent Flyer? Okay.
No, but they have an app.
Okay.
And they also have their website.
Gotcha.
So a couple tricks for you.
Yeah.
So we talked about seat assignments. If you want a seat assignment, and you always want a window, you always want an aisle, you can choose those things. But if you want to roll the dice and just go for a seat the day of departure, then you don't have to pay for a seat assignment.
I like that idea.
Okay.
I mean, again, if you don't mind the center seat, because these are 6 across, right? 3 and 3.
I think it's 3 and 2 actually.
3 and 2. Okay, gotcha. Again, more like an MD-80 or
And then they have I think 12 first class seats.
Oh wow.
As well. And they have what they called nicer, which I'm not sure how many seats are in that.
Kind of an economy plus?
Economy plus type of thing. Then the other trick that people can look at is when you're booking your airline ticket, it says after you pick your flights, you pick your seats. If you don't want to do the seats, you hit pick your bags. And then you can do your bags, your personal item, carry-on, or you can do a check bag and do that there, and it takes you to the checkout.
Now, again, a trick that I found out on Frontier is if I really need to carry stuff, I'll check one bag and not do anything on the overhead bin. I found that the check bag was more reasonable to come together than each one of us having an overhead. Because you're allowed that personal item might be your laptop or purse, right?
Right.
I mean,
that's your personal item, but if you want something a little bit bigger, then that's I'm not sure the term they use, but that's there. The other way is there's a what do you call it, technology fee.
Okay.
And if you want to avoid the technology fee, once they start service here on Wednesdays from I think it's 11 to 1:30, you can go to the airport and purchase your ticket and avoid that fee. So a lot of the answers to the questions that people might want to know about booking and the charges and the things they have are in their frequent asked questions that they have online. And so that way, if you go to those questions, it can answer some of these things for you and help you with your purchase experience, so you know what you're doing. Because once you get there, when you check in, most likely everything's going to be automated. I don't think they're going to do printed boarding passes. So
Okay,
most
yeah.
likely it's going to be, unless you print it at home from yourself, everything's going to be in the app. So it's going to be it's a way to streamline costs and eliminate a lot of paper and those sort of things for those individuals flying. Typically, low-cost carriers don't oversell their planes, so you getting a seat assignment is not going to be a challenge because they only go multiple days a week, so the likelihood of them overselling their aircraft is very limited because they need to be able to put the 137 people on the plane and get 137 off.
That's right. They don't have a lot of options for an overbooking, right?
Correct. Yep.
Talk about why you're really happy and your board is really happy about this particular airline choosing Erie. This nice thing and this upscale deal is really kind of a super win for ULCC, right?
Well, it's a super win, but it's also, we had 3 low-cost carriers that were interested in Erie, and it's all about plane availability. So we had a Velo that was interested. We had Allegiant that was finally interested. And then we had Breeze, and Breeze was the one that pulled the trigger first. And if you look at, those 3 airlines, Breeze brings a lot to the table, from the new aircraft, the new technology, the new flight crews and their personnel.
Where's their corporate hub?
Cottonwood, Utah, so outside of Salt Lake
But I
City.
mean, as far as their number one hub, is that Orlando or?
Breeze, they have a lot of flights in Orlando, Tampa, Fort Myers. They tend to go to the named airports where Allegiant goes to Punta Gorda, or they go to
Niagara Falls,
Orlando, Sanford, or Niagara Falls.
Yes.
And so they're going from smaller communities to bigger airports that people recognize. When Allegiant Air started, that became a challenge because Allegiant went to Orlando, Sanford. And people says, well, I'm flying down to Orlando, and they tell their person to come meet them at the airport. They went to the wrong airport. They went to Orlando McCoy instead of Orlando Sanford. So we won't have those sort of things happen because we're going to the primary airport there.
That's super cool. I want you to share the story of how, we really kind of knocked Breeze's socks off this Erie market. I mean, you've got to be proud of the market for their response when Breeze originally announced the MCO service there.
Yeah, it's been a great response from the community. There's a gentleman that I've been in contact with. He's flying out on the first flight. He heard when the news broke about the Orlando service, and he was actually in Orlando. He bought an airline ticket to go down on the first flight. His brother lives in Orlando, so he was down there visiting him. And so it's going to make the opportunity for his brother to get back to Erie a little easier for more family vacations and get-togethers. One of the great things about their first flights in November, it's a Wednesday departure, Saturday return. So if somebody's trying to go down for Thanksgiving, you actually can get to Orlando, get up to Erie, and do that fairly easily because of the new service. So there's a lot of things that in play. I think people are taking advantage of it. This market, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think there's 1.8 million passengers between Buffalo, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Erie that go to Orlando on an annual basis. So there's a lot of demand for Orlando, and the people took a look at this and understanding that, if I'm driving down to Pittsburgh, it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Got to get there early to park my car. Right now, they've got all sorts of construction, so the lines trying to get through TSA are horrendous. And so you might have to get to the airport, or leave Erie about 4 hours before your flight to get down there to do your thing. And you eliminate all those headaches, and you're flying out of Erie, and, as we say in our jingle,
what's on the jingle, right?
Baggage claim to pajamas in 10 minutes.
I love that. I told you that story. My wife went down to Orlando via American in the spring, and I just had a buddy help me drop off our car. And as she's, walking off the airport, she could see the car in the, I took a picture. There's where the car is. you're looking through the picture windows at Erie International, and there's our car right there, 30 steps away from the revolving door,
Right, absolutely. And if you think about last night, the Pittsburgh Steelers game got delayed because of the weather conditions. So imagine trying to drive from Erie in those weather conditions, trying to get to the airport to catch a plane.
Well, and anybody on Saturday that had a Pittsburgh flight with Trump at Butler, they said 79 was the parking lot.
Right.
There's just a lot that can go on. You never know when there's an accident on the way to Cleveland or to Buffalo or what have you. This is super simple. Tell us, we got about a few minutes before the bottom of the hour. Tell us what the ultra low cost carrier, getting them here was really a super strong step to revitalizing the legacy approach. Can you give us that connection, how that bridge is there?
So low-cost carriers like low rates and charges. So as we talked about before, the airport's rates and charges were kind of high. We've worked really hard to bring that down. American year-to-date is averaging, I think, $11.30.
Which is less, like half of what it used to be, right?
Correct. Well, yeah. So I think it was $18 higher last year after United pulled out. So they were paying $28. So now they're at under 12. And so you look at that spread, it shows to the low-cost carriers as well as the legacy carriers that the airport's rates and charges have gotten more efficient and effective, and that there's an opportunity for the market there. So now they have to make sure that they have airplanes, have to have crews to operate. So we're still not out of that sort of bellywick yet. Last week, you most likely saw in the news, people think that, airlines have to stay in markets. These things don't happen in big cities. They only happen in Erie. Well, last week, Southwest announced in their corporate call, the shareholders, that they are pulling a lot of flights out of Atlanta.
Southwest is.
Southwest. Wow. They're pulling 19,000 seats weekly out of Atlanta starting in the spring. And so the history there is they bought AirTran, which was a low-cost carrier. Mm-hmm. And AirTran did some connectivity through Atlanta and tried to compete with Delta. Southwest doesn't do connectivity. They're point-to-point. So they're trying to rely on the local market to support their service and going against the big dog, Delta.
Right.
And they can't make it work.
Can't make it happen. Wow.
And because of that, they're reducing their flight schedule out of Atlanta. I can't remember the number of daily departures, but 19,000 seats.
Who was the one that you told us last time pulled out of JFK altogether?
United.
That's insane.
Yep.
Now, again, they have a huge presence in Newark, but that's not JFK.
It's not JFK. And it's depending on the traffic, it'd take you an hour and a half if you're trying to get from the JFK area, Queens.
Yeah, if you're in Queens.
And trying to make your way to Newark, it'd take you an hour and a half.
Plus, how much does that bridge cost?
Right? Oh, we're over $15. You got to pay your tolls.
Right. No, it's just interesting. Every market is so different. I mean, I don't know. Does Jeff Blue kind of own JetBlue? Not Jeff. JetBlue. Do they kind of own Boston? I mean, they're really competitive in Boston.
So they've had a huge presence in Boston along with Delta. So those two are going head to head. JetBlue's main headquarters is at New York JFK. So JFK historically was an international gateway.
Right.
And JetBlue basically said, let's fill in the gaps when the international, because their arrivals come at a certain time, depart at a certain time. So they fill the gaps, and that's how they started. So they were flying. They worked with the state of New York, and so Buffalo had service to JFK, Rochester, all the cities in New York. So they had service to JFK, and then they could connect to the East Coast or the West Coast, wherever they wanted to go. And then they flew nonstop from secondary airports, so they didn't go head to head and get beat. So from JFK, they flew to Long Beach.
Okay.
When they started, they didn't fly to LAX.
They didn't fly to LAX.
So that's how they started, and they grew their airlines. And so JFK now is primary hub for Delta Airlines. Delta has some presence as well in LaGuardia, and American has a fairly decent presence in LaGuardia. And then you have all the international carriers in JetBlue at Kennedy. So it's interesting dynamic, but that's what you just mentioned about United Airlines. When I read that, it was hard to believe that in the largest metropolitan area in the country, at one of the biggest airports in the country, one of the top 10 airports, that an airline the size of United says, we can't make money here, and we pulled out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so instructive at where the airline industry is at.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, 5th next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get on board.
Derek, I always love getting caught up with the industry here. And would you say, again, as you look and you read your trades, you go to your conferences and things, are we still in a situation of workforce in the airline industry, apparatus, or both?
Still a little bit of both. Boeing had a lot of challenges with their aircraft. The FAA sort of grounded some of their things for additional inspections. So they're still coming out of that. And so you really only have two major airline manufacturers in the world. You've got Boeing and Airbus, and then you have the Embraer that's made in Canada, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so those three...
Doesn't Brazil have a plant for one of them?
Yeah, it might be a Brazilian in there as well. So, I mean, there's not much, but for the bigger aircraft, the wide bodies, it's Boeing and Airbus are the two key players. So as the airlines have gone to bigger aircraft to take more people from places to other places, point to point, it's made it a challenge going forward. So I think there's still some with aircraft, and there's a little bit with the pilots as well. Not necessarily the co-pilots, it's the pilots. So you've got these young people who have come through, and now they have to get X amount of hours before they can actually be a captain.
Gotcha.
And so there's additional requirements there. And so meeting all those requirements takes time.
And we're still in a situation now where the regional airlines, who used to pay not great wages to their pilots, are having to pay nearly equity wages as if they were, flying in the big planes, right? I mean,
yeah. So a pilot that was most likely working for Piedmont or some other regional carrier is now making about the same wage as somebody that's flying for Breeze. So they went from, say, $30,000, now they're at $100,000 or whatever that number is. Mm-hmm. And so they've had tremendous growth in salaries, but that's made it challenging to try to operate an airline and think you're going to charge low fares. And so that delta that used to be there, that was a big gap between the low-cost carrier and the legacy carrier, is shrinking because the cost of these things have gone up. When fuel goes up, that affects everybody. So the economics of scale, being a low-cost carrier, has become challenging as the airlines' wages have gone up and the cost of operating has gone up as well.
So how are they doing it? Is it because they're only going to a destination a couple times a week? I mean, what is the business model that makes these ultra low-cost carriers work?
So you take a look at, and Breeze most likely does the same thing, but I'm more familiar with Allegiant Air. So Allegiant Air, basically, a few years ago, they had maybe one or two destinations where they overnight a crew. So basically, they have these bases. So they have a base in Las Vegas. They have one in Mesa, Arizona. They have, Orlando, Punta Gorda, Clearwater, St. Pete. And so the planes leave there first thing in the morning, bring people home, pick up people at whatever location they have, bring them back to their. So we would have a flight that left Vegas to Rockford on Allegiant. That plane would get in at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, pick up people, go back to Vegas. Then that plane would go up and down the coast, make a couple runs.
Yeah.
And that plane would end their night in Vegas where they start. So the two pilots, the 3 flight attendants on American, United, or Delta are all staying in a hotel.
Right.
All these people were staying in their own beds at home.
Interesting.
So the hotel costs that you would have to incur, maybe an extra meal or 2 meals that you would have to incur, are gone in this scenario. So that's how they're able to shave a lot of costs off, is they do those sort of things. They also they typically never fly on a Tuesday, because that's the lowest day of the week for somebody to travel on. So Delta, American, United, if you're looking for airfares, when I worked for Northwest Airlines, I started work on a Wednesday. I worked all week, and the next week a guy showed up to work on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I go, "Where you been?" "Oh, I was on vacation." Vacation? Who goes on vacation on a Tuesday or Wednesday?
Right.
And because airline employees, they try to pick the dates that were
they can get a jump seat.
They can get a jump seat or get on a plane and travel as a non-rev person. So it's just interesting, the different things that happen as you go through this.
I'm gonna set up all of my vacations now Tuesday to Tuesday. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Can you explain again? This is something else that has kind of occurred since the pandemic, of the idea where short hops are not a thing anymore with these airlines. But it's not necessarily long hops. So, whenever there's an announcement, the social media comments are filled. Get us a flight to Vegas. Get us a flight to L.A. or San Francisco or Nashville or whatever. What is that sweet spot for a market like Erie of a destination? Is a Nashville like in our realm of possibility, or Vegas or what have you, like kind of thing?
I would say yes to Vegas. Nashville's a little iffy.
Little iffy. Okay, so Vegas is more of a possibility, even though it's further.
Right. Because
okay, explain that for me.
Well, millions of people a year go to Las Vegas.
Okay.
They spend money, and the airlines can basically fill almost every plane they want going out to Las Vegas. Atlantic City tried to compete with Las Vegas, so he says, well, we got the beaches and we got gambling. Well, people that gamble don't want to sit on a beach.
Sure.
Okay, there are two different client personnel. So the ability to have a nonstop to Vegas is a potential, but again, it goes back to aircraft availability. So
not necessarily slots, landings at whatever that airport is.
It's Reed now. It used to be Las Vegas McCarran.
McCarran, that's right. Yeah,
they changed.
It's called
the name.
Reed.
It's called Reed.
So of course, Harry Reid.
Harry Reid. Yeah, there you go. See, look at you, right on top of it.
Yeah.
So what happens is, that location, because it's not in a metropolitan area that's big and condensed like in New York, D.C., they have lots of runways and space, so they can land more planes, and they're talking about expanding with more gates. So they don't have a gate problem. And actually, some of the airlines have reduced their capacity because as you go to a bigger plane, you're not flying as many planes in. So there might be more gate availability throughout the day because of that. And that's what the challenge is going forward anywhere is if the airline, for example, Charlotte, if they fill all their gates, there's no room at the end. So you might want to get a nonstop flight to Charlotte, but they have no gate availability. They can't get you in. And so when we were going through this pandemic and American was trying to do things with their flights, we had a really early flight and we had a really late flight coming in. And what people didn't understand is that they were taking a crew that flew that first flight into Erie. They got off the plane, they went to the hotel, rest, got all the crew rest, so they didn't have to worry about when that late flight came in and leave the next morning, that you had the proper crew rest for those people. So now it's built in as that plane lands at 1 o'clock. Those people are getting off the plane, that crew going into the hotel, checking, getting dinner, going to sleep, and they take out that first flight the next morning. The plane that comes in at 10:38 or 11 o'clock at night, they don't leave until that 1 o'clock flight the next day. So they built in.
So both crews are taking hotel stays.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yep.
That is really interesting. I mean, again, that's the cost of flying into the external market.
But go ahead. So if why they do it that way is so that you don't have people that are delayed the next morning. If you don't do that, that plane comes in late, those pilots by federal law have to have X amount of crew rest.
Correct.
If they can't get the crew rest that they need, that flight doesn't take off. So most likely all those people on that morning departure are going to be delayed. They're going to miss their connection to getting to wherever they want to go. So it's more of a better for the crews, but it's also better for customer service because you have less people frustrated with that extra crew overnight in Erie than you would before.
Let's talk about Erie International itself. Again, a lot of upgrades. You got a lot of money during the pandemic. What is on the punch sheet right now for projects and things? And I would imagine ground transportation is still an issue at Erie.
Well, ground transportation is an issue because the gentleman that ran the taxi company passed away, and nobody in their family wanted to take it over, so that went away. We still have Ubers and Lyfts. We've got the city bus that comes out to the airport from different directions throughout the day. But ground transportation is an issue. We have the car rental companies, and they provide a good service. But one of the things we're doing from a customer service perspective is, as we roll out the new airlines, we're putting different things on, little logos. Are you happy with picking up your rented car? Are you happy with your customer service experience at the car rental counter? Are you happy with, your going through TSA, your experience at the restaurant? So we're trying to get direct feedback from the customers. There's a QR code. They click it. They can log in and give a smiley face or a not so smiley face and answer a few additional questions if they choose to do. So we're trying to get additional input from the customers as they go through. We're hoping to have an additional new ticket counter for Breeze. It's a little delayed coming from Germany, but we'll have that on board. So we'll have some good things for people to experience as they come through the airport. That one thing I have to stress, we miss a lot of people now getting on planes because they get to the airport late.
Yeah, they still think that they can whiz in 30 minutes.
Oh, some people think, well, the flight supposed to leave at 8. I got here at 7:55.
Oh, gee.
I'm on time. And so one of the things that's going to happen, particularly with the flight that starts to Orlando on the Wednesdays and the Saturdays, is American has a flight around the same time. So you're going to have about 200 people trying to get on planes. You're not getting to the airport half hour before your flight.
No.
Getting through. And Breeze asked for you to get there 2 hours before. American has a system-wide shut-off 45 minutes before departure. And I hear it all the time. Well, that's stupid. This is Erie. Well, here's the challenge. You arrive at Las Vegas, L.A., New York, 45 minutes before your flight.
Yeah.
How in the world you think you're going to check in, get through security, and get to your gate? And what most people don't understand is that they're usually boarding the plane 40 minutes before departure.
Exactly.
So by 10 minutes or 20 minutes before departure, the plane's already sort of full and locked up and loaded. So they're trying to get that plane out there on time to get you to your connecting flight if you have a connecting flight. And so that 45-minute lockout, and people will, I'll just use the machine. No, you don't understand. They lock it out, everything.
On the system.
On the system, even in the app. So you can't even do that. So we had a situation a couple years ago. The plane was a little bit delayed, and a guy wanted to buy a ticket on the earlier flight because he was there. So he says, I'll just buy a ticket on this plane. They couldn't even sell him a ticket because the system had locked him out. So those are certain things that the airlines do that the locals can't control.
Right.
And so getting to the airport on time, making sure that you get there on time, you get through security, full restaurant, full bar, adult beverages, kiddie beverages, tater tots.
If it's early morning, there's coffee.
There's
brewed.
coffee.
Yeah.
So just get to the airport so that you're not stressed about getting on your plane and getting to your destination.
What time does the airport? What's the first flight? There's like a 6:05, right?
6:10, 6:15. It's around there. Yeah.
Yeah. What time does the airport open for TSA?
The airport's open at 4:30.
Okay, so you can come as early as 4:30 and
by
quarter to 5.
Quarter to 5, you're through. 5 o'clock, you're through security, and you have an hour, 5 hour, and 10 minutes before your flight. Relax, get a coffee, great breakfast sandwich, a sausage biscuit with egg.
Yeah,
delightful.
How you doing on workforce at the airport? Like, are you hiring?
Breeze is hiring.
Okay.
They're trying to hire a station manager as well as I think about 20 people to operate their flights. Yep. Because people only work certain days or whatever, so
Sure.
it gives flexibility. So I believe there was an ad in the paper. I think it's actually posted on our website. The company that's doing the ground handling is called Trago Dugan. They operate out of Pittsburgh and about 26 or 30 other different airports throughout the United States. So they're looking for staff. So again, the airline, the airport, economic engine to bring the community both at the airport as well as local businesses here, as well as Pittsburgh, or not Pittsburgh, but Tampa and Orlando and beyond.
Talk about why, and we mentioned this a little bit in our interview last week, but talk about why the legacies are happy with the ultra low cost being able to kind of be a pressure release of the leisure travel off of that the legacies need you to have a couple seats available for that last minute business traveler, right?
Yeah,
that full paying business traveler.
Yeah, they want connectivity and they want high yield passengers. So typically, somebody that might be going to Florida is not, and they're a vacationer, they're not willing to pay as much as a business traveler that's going to Atlanta or going to DC or going to Boston. And so, if you have that last minute business traveler that wants to fly, they can purchase their ticket to that destination last minute and then get out of town, and the leisure traveler can do what they want to do as well. So it basically frees it up for the people that they want to serve. Delta Airlines, for example, says we want to go after the premium passenger. And it's actually interesting if you put this in perspective. We talked about American or Southwest Airlines getting rid of 19,000 weekly seats in Atlanta. So Southwest is the fourth largest U.S. airline in the country. Delta is one or two, but they want to be known as a premium airline.
Yeah.
So full service, first class, business class. It's hard to believe that Southwest couldn't generate enough business at their lower fares, supposedly. And free bags to compete in the largest market in the world.
Right, in Atlanta.
Into Atlanta.
Wow. Yeah, it's really competitive. So what this is bringing up is, when we're running 93, 95% load factors on American, that is it's a blessing and a curse, because you want to be able to be available for that last minute business passenger who's going to pay full fare. What is like the target? What is the industry target? Is it 85% loads?
85% is, so Erie is above the average here in this market for American, which is good. I always say that when you're talking 93, 94%, you're talking, the plane is basically full. There are people that missed the plane because they got late.
Right.
Okay. You've got people that, if there's a broken seat in an aircraft, we had that. So
That's
instead
true.
of going out 50 out of 50, it's going out at 49 out of 50.
Sure.
So there's a little things that take place that could, have an effect on, trying to get. It's almost impossible to do 100% for a extended period of time. You might get all three flights one day, also allowed at 100%, but it's hard to consistently do that because something might go wrong, or somebody misses the plane. Like if you get three people that miss the plane, those are three empty seats.
3 empty seats. Yeah. Talk about what would be the probable next thing, the next baby step that gets us back to kind of the kind of traffic that you're hoping for at ERI. Would it be another legacy with another destination, a larger plane to our current legacy destination, which is Charlotte, maybe American adding a second destination? What do you think might be the likely scenario next? Do you think American might want to improve their market share here?
Wow, it's hard to prove
when you're 100% legacy. Yeah, this is what's so hard is that, Delta was killing it in 2019. Before all this, I mean, they were pulling 40% market share, and they had strong load factors, right? I mean,
They were 80, 85, yep.
yeah.
So to answer your question, I think the airline or the type of aircraft that might go, we're going to get through this season with Breeze starting service. People are going to become more familiar with the product. So we're in that window now where people should be buying tickets.
Yeah.
Because we're 30 days out. So now it's becoming real.
Mm-hmm.
The first flight goes out, it's going to get really real.
Right.
Okay? And people are going to come back and say, that plane was absolutely gorgeous. I can't believe it. It was a straight shot. I mean,
Yeah.
all the positive things people are going to say about their experiences is going to start to go through the community. And so you have a year that means the possibility of adding another destination next winter to another destination in Florida. So you could possibly
Yeah, see, I could see Breeze being very aggressive with the Erie market.
Right. So I think you could see another destination from Breeze next winter. And I also think you'll see that now the Americans of the world in the United, so relook at the Erie market and see, American, do you want to re-engage Chicago?
Right.
Because in the summer of 2019, United and American both flew nonstop from Erie to Chicago. So we had 4 daily departures to there at about an 82% load factor.
For all 4 of them. Amazing.
Yeah. So if you look at that and then you look at...
And O'Hare depends on these regionals to bring incoming passengers, right? That's the whole business plan for O'Hare.
Well, any large hub is the
Yeah.
connectivity. You've got your local passengers, which we refer to people that live in the community, and then
Right.
you got your connecting. So, for example, when I was at Detroit, 70% of our passengers were connecting, and only 30% were local. So it was that feed from these different communities, as you were saying, to those airports to make it work and make it be operational.
It's so interesting. Well, we'll wait and see. Derek Martin, appreciate you taking the time here. Again, we can talk about this business all day long. It's really remarkable. And thanks for being a sponsor here on Talk Erie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joel. Glad to be with you.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing joel@TalkErie.com.